The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this episode are that of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the values of sponsors or other associated organizations. Welcome to the Parental Compass by Family Education and Support Services. I am your host, Bobby Williams. Please subscribe to the show, tell a friend about the show, tell a friend to tell a friend about the show, and then you tell another friend. It helps us get the word out, and we appreciate you. This is a special episode because we have an incredible guest, Margi Graziano. Margi is an author and public speaker who has spent the last 35 years working in the business world to help individuals overcome personal and professional barriers. She's now taking what she's learned and applying it to the way that families function. She talks about ideas like finding your purpose, the importance of self-awareness as you're navigating difficult challenges, and response agility, a phrase that she's coined. You can learn more about Margi's work by going to margaretgraziano.com. This was just, I really enjoyed this interview. I think you're going to enjoy it too. Let's check it out.
She said, well, tell me about response agility. And I said, to keep it really simple, it's a way of recalibrating and pivoting moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And it requires three things. It requires a North Star, a compass, where you're headed. It requires you being aware and awake to what your purpose is, not necessarily where you're going, like I'm sailing to Sicily or something, but what's my life about? What is my North Star? And then secondly, when I've gone off course, how quickly can I recalibrate? How quickly can I tack? And then once I've tacked, what's the next right action for me to take? How do I move forward in integrity with my North Star? That's response agility. Now, there's many different ways to explain that, and based on your questions, I'll go into more, but let's just face it right now, friends. We are living in great, volatile, uncertain, chaotic, complex, confusing, and ambiguous times.
So I want to come in and just recap a little of what you're saying and what I'm hearing here. So it's important to be able to remain flexible. You have to be aware of what's going on, and then what are your core values? What do you really believe is important? Where are you trying to go with this? And then take action. And that's something that can relate to business, or it can relate to
Parenting.
Families, and it's just kind of a guiding force in your life. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and think about it. So many people are nervous about this work at home thing, and people that are working at home, then the companies want you to come back, and you don't want to have your kid on calls because then it looks like you're just having fun. All this stress and work-life balance and what's important. And sometimes we just go, we're not self-aware. 95% of people are not aware of their own awareness. They're going through life on survival mode. Like, oh my God, I got to make money to feed the kids and pay the mortgage. And I got to have dinner on the table, and I got to do this and I got to do that. And this guy's not doing good in school, and this guy's got to be potty trained. They're like this all day. So when we stop and connect and understand, it's about self-awareness. And most of the time when we take that 90 seconds to recalibrate, we will make a better choice of what comes out of our mouth, what to say, what not to say yes or no, to get involved, to not get involved, and to keep ourselves in a clean, pure, integrous space so that we can operate from our highest and best self as parents, as grandparents, and as leaders in organizations, and as followers in organizations, and as citizens of humanity.
How can you cultivate this in yourself further? Is it just a matter of being intentional of like, I'm taking 90 seconds here, I'm going to assess and recalibrate, or are there other things you can do to be more mindful in general?
Yeah, really good. So there's so much about your question. What I'll say is to get to the point where you can recalibrate in 90 seconds, you probably already are a meditator. You probably already are highly self-aware, and those are not mutually exclusive. Those are not mutually exclusive. I mean, they're not, just because you have one doesn't mean you have the other. They are exclusive. So self-awareness is I see my reaction. I feel that I'm angry and it's pumping up. So we have to really build a muscle at self-awareness. Mindfulness is meditating or walking in the redwoods or at the beach or around the block without your phone, without talking to somebody. I think both of those are practices and disciplines that a person has to learn. The third is situational awareness. What is really going on outside of me? And what biases do I have that are shaping what I'm seeing? Because you see, some parents, maybe they had a hard time in school as kids. So they bring that to raising their kid, and they don't know that they're bringing that to raising their kid. So it's a filter. And so the situational awareness is not just knowing what's going on inside me, it's what's scanning the environment, what's really happening here, and how much am I projecting on what's happening or reflecting on my own past, and to look clearly. Once you exercise those three muscles, and then you create a vision for yourself, you can do it in less than 90 seconds.
Hmm.
But creating like, what's my life purpose? To be a great mom. Well, why? Why do I want to be a great mom? So I raise contributing members of society. Well, why is that important? Because I want my family to be a contribution. So my purpose is I emanate contribution. It's not raising my kids. Do you see the difference? One is microcosm, one is macrocosm. And the more we're macrocosmed, the more we're connected to the ultimate, the more we're connected to our highest level, the more we're universally connected with other human beings, including the little ones we're raising.
Yeah, I understand these concepts of it, and I think bringing it into practical life, like that's where the challenge lies. Or how do you become more aware of yourself when you're in the moment of something, or you go through a whole day, you're stressed out, you're at home, your kids are anxious or upset,
Yeah.
and then to just recenter yourself, that sounds like it really takes practice.
Yeah. So I have a book, From Friction to Flow. It's free. It's an ebook. Now I just wrote all over this, but there's a QR code and we can put it in the drop. We can get you that QR code and you can put it in the
We'll
bottom.
include a
But
link.
anybody can download this. And in this ebook, moving from friction to flow, there's this barometer, this energy barometer called the 7 levels of effectiveness. So one of the things you can do daily is tune in while you're eating lunch. Where have I been spending my time today? In hopelessness, in fear, in frustration, or in courage, or in engagement, or in innovation, or in sync? If you can do an inventory, just a quick check in, it takes 30 seconds. Oh gosh, I notice I'm really agitated today. But if you stop midday when you're eating, and where am I at on the 7 levels and where have I spent most of my day? It's very helpful. Yes?
It's kind of like halftime at a football game or something, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yes. So the 7 levels are excellent way of checking in. Another great way of checking in is also in the ebook. This is why we put it together, because my purpose is to liberate the human spirit. I do it at work, but ultimately, if we can do it at work, we can touch thousands of families, which is the ultimate reason to liberate even the new gen. Anyway, there's fear melters. And this is something to learn and practice, but there's an inventory of how do I act? How do I behave? What are my emotions when I feel fear? And so you can go through and circle, oh, here's all the things that happen when I'm experiencing fear. So if I'm aware, if I do an inventory and I start to circle the things, now next time I'm experiencing it, the neurons in my brain go ding. That's that circle. You circled that. Ding, ding. So when you do an inventory and you either take a journal or you look at a list that's already made and you circle it, you tell your brain that there's some new learning. So now your reticular activating system is going to listen for that in the environment. Don't circle 87 things because it's too much for the little reticular. But let's say you always get agitated with people. The Starbucks person isn't giving your order right. The teacher didn't give you enough information. Your boss doesn't give you the right context. The cleaning lady screwed up the this or that. The kids aren't getting their homework done the way you think they should. And you go to agitation. Now you know that's your go-to place. Or let's say you go to worry. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't know. You're up at night and it's always worrying. Now, next time you start worrying, you will see yourself worrying. That grows the seed of self-awareness. And then there's a practice for melting that worry or melting that agitation or melting the anxiety, whatever it is. There's a whole process in the ebook for melting it. They're called fear melters. And basically that's embodiment, Bobby. So let's go back to the I get agitated. When I get agitated, I start grinding my jaw. So now next time I notice myself being agitated, I feel for my jaw and I unclench my mouth. That movement of the body will change the brain and the body connection of that emotion that quick. Let's say you hold your agitation in your fist. You just start going like this and it'll move it through. So those are different ways.
It's amazing how much our mind and our body are connected. And yeah, I'll have situations like that too. Like I'll just sort of be like, "Oh, my shoulders are really like let's do a little adjust here and recenter ourselves." Some of what you're talking about is taking action and course correcting some. But then sometimes in life, there's situations where maybe you're powerless or you can't leave, or your child's getting bullied and you don't know what you can do to address that. How do you reclaim your power in situations like that?
Well, there is something called the villain, victim, hero drama triangle. And whenever we feel powerless, whenever we have a loss of power, freedom, or self-expression, there is something going on in our thinking that is keeping us on the triangle. I promise you, there is always something, typically from the past, that has us feel like we're victimized. They're bullying my kids. I can't do anything about it. When we can take responsibility for that loss of power and we connect to our highest self, we'll get answers we didn't know we had. But you see, the average human being has between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day. The tough part is 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. The even tougher part is 85% of those 95 are negative. So when we see that we're either playing the role of a villain, a victim, or a hero, and if we're playing the role of a victim, then somebody has to be the villain. And if we're playing the role of victim, we're waiting for a hero. If we're playing the hero, I'll save the day, then someone has to be a villain and a victim. And when we really start to tell the truth, we're not really victimized. We are liberated. We all have volition. If our kid is being bullied and we do the investigation and we come from love, courage, belief in our highest power, in our child's highest power, we can go to school without being a villain, victim, hero drama triangle and have an open, honest conversation from possibility. Notice my son is being bullied. I'd be really curious if we could take a look and have somebody watch what's going on the playground. Is he antagonizing others, or is somebody really bullying him? And if so, let's have an intervention. Let's bring the parents in and let's talk about what's behind the bullying. Because if there is a bully at school, that bully is in just as much pain as the person who's being bullied. I was a bully as a little kid. My father was a heroin addict. I didn't know I was being a bully. My mother was checked out. She did everything she could to put food on the table. I was like, I was like total victim, little kid. Wasn't talking to anybody. Like as adults, we're really not victims. Now I know. Wow. I could have reported all of it to the school, but I was a little kid. I could have talked to one of my sisters, but I was a little kid. And I was tough. Nobody was going to get to me. But I mean, I wasn't like a bully, like beating people up, but I got in fights. I was part of the mean girls making fun of people. When they made fun of me, I crumbled. I left the school. But whether you're the kid being bullied or the parent of the bully, you see Adam Sandler movies, he does a really good job of taking humanity and giving it a face, and situations and giving it a face. Um, if we know we're on the villain victim hero triangle, we can choose 100% responsibility. And when you choose 100% responsibility, you're in a state of courage. You see yourself as somebody who could do something about it. Maybe you change schools. Maybe if that school doesn't offer supervisory, maybe you take a day off work and go see what's going on the playground. Or your sister does. Somebody.
Nothing's insurmountable. You're right. There's always kind of something you can do. I think about too, adults are always examples for their children. And how can you get your child to get this sense of purpose within themselves, or some kind of guiding force? Is there anything you can do to cultivate that further?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So with my grandkids, when I get them all together, we did vision boards, and our vision boards were pictures that they liked that made them experience happiness, a happy feeling. So joy is the number one access to purpose on the vibrational scale, the Hertz vibrational scale of energy. When you're in a state of happiness and joy, you're the closest you will be to a sense of fulfillment. So why not take the kids there? We think we get them there through taking them to Disney. That's not the answer. Getting them to experience the experience that they feel when they're holding their mother's hand on the ride and going, woo, or when they see Mickey Mouse's face. It isn't Disney, it's the experience that Disney offers. We can do that with our kids when we're not at Disney. We can do it at the zoo. We can do that while they're learning to potty train. We could learn it by doing little toe rubs and talking to them about what makes you happy and listening to what they're saying. It's time in the right hemisphere. It's time in the right hemisphere. So many parents focus on homework. Homework is left hemisphere. It's critical thinking. It's getting things done. Our brain has two parts. It has the creative, the no agenda, just love, connection, empathy, visioning, imagining. And then this side is like, what do we have to do and when do we have to do it, and in what order, and what is the time of the homework, and the mom or dad, what is your grade? All of that is parts and sequencing. And when we focus too much on parts and sequencing, we actually create a stronger relationship between our child's separate self versus the oneness that they are with their heart, their soul, their mind, their body. It's all one. It's not two separate. There's not a mind and body. There's not a God out there, but not inside me. It's oneness. Anyway,
Ah,
philosophy.
I love it. I also think about workplaces and work culture. And then in your family, you have your own family culture. How do you make a flexible, a collaborative family culture?
Yeah, that's so good. So there's a great book by Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective Families. And Stephen Covey is one of my mentors. First kind of training I ever had was the Seven Habits. So he used to talk about family meetings. Have a family meeting, have a mission for your family. So how you create a healthy, intentional, high performance organizational culture is there always needs to be a cause or an intent for your organization. Well, what about for your family? Families are human systems, organizations are human systems. The next piece is, what kind of environment do we want in our family? What kind of, you can't really see now because I'm moving it around too much. What kind of environment do we want? How do we want it to feel around here? Do we want psychological safety? Do we want to be having open forum night where we talk about what we like and don't like about our family dynamics and where we're going on vacation? And then the architecture, what's the structure? What time is homework time? What is expected from homework? What's expected for how we treat our brothers and sisters? What are our, I was told by a coach early on when my kids, it was not early enough, actually. It was like when they were 9 and 11, and it was too late for the 11-year-old. He was going to be 12. He didn't want to hang out with mom, but they said, you should do date nights with your kids alone. Go out, get to know them as people. The only kid that I had that wanted to do that is my youngest, because I started when he was 9. I didn't know about that. My mom never had date night. She was just putting food on the table and surviving. So when I realized that was something to do, I started doing it. I think with the family, you just talk about who are we for each other? What do we want? And I think kids can start to communicate that. My grandson is 2, and when he needs space, he says, "Rausmiti," which means go away. We're teaching him to say, "Give me some space." But my kids in my generation never said I need space. What was space?
Right. So much great information and so much more I want to talk about too. We're going to have you back on the show so we can dive into this a little bit more. So
Super
for
fun.
now,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll take this as the runway to your book and get everyone there. But this was a lot of fun talking with you. I love your ideas and just thank you for taking the time today.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, Margi Graziano, margaretgraziano.com. Check her out. This has been The Parental Compass by Family Education and Support Services. I'm Bobby Williams. I hope you had a good time. We'll see you next episode. Peace.